Yes, I live at Oak Beach in the association. There's a young girl about 14 years old running around here screaming, and there's some guy trying to follow her.
There's somebody after me.
Okay, where are you?
There's somebody after me.
Where are you, ma'am?
I don't know.
You're driving right now?
No, I'm inside the house.
I'm sorry?
I'm inside the house.
What house?
I don't know. Can you trace where I am?
I'm sorry?
Can you trace where I am?
No, I can't.
May 1st, 2010. It's just after 4:51 a.m. in the quiet, gated beach community of Oak Beach, Long Island. Suddenly, a 911 dispatcher picks up a call that will haunt law enforcement for more than a decade. On the other end of the line is Shannan Gilbert, a 24-year-old aspiring actress and part-time escort from New Jersey. She's panting, terrified, running, and what she says next freezes the blood of everyone listening. "They're trying to kill me. Help me, please." For 23 chilling minutes, Shannon pleads, gasps and whispers through panic as she darts through backyards, bangs on strangers' doors, and tries to outrun something or someone no one else can see. Her voice is raw with fear. Then, suddenly, silence. She vanishes into the marsh, and just like that, Shannan Gilbert is gone. But her disappearance wouldn't just launch a missing person search. It would rip open the dark underbelly of Long Island and uncover one of the most horrifying serial killing investigations in modern American history. Because finding Shannon would lead to 10 more bodies, all women, all discarded like trash along Ocean Parkway. And one question still echoes through the mist of that coastal marshland. Was Shannan Gilbert a random tragedy, or the first victim of a long-hunted predator? This is the story of Shannan Gilbert, the call that cracked a case, and the secrets buried in the sands of Gilgo Beach. By dawn on May 1st, 2010, the first light hit Oak Beach like a sleepy sigh. Seagulls cried in the distance. The Atlantic breeze swept lazily across the sand dunes, and no one yet knew that a 24-year-old woman had just vanished without a trace. But in the shallow, tangled marsh behind a cluster of beachfront homes, a black purse was found lying in the reeds. Nearby, a pair of shoes, a phone. The fog was thick, the silence crushing. Shannan Gilbert's driver, Michael Pack, had been the last to see her alive. He said she had suddenly panicked during a scheduled escort visit to a local resident, Joseph Brewer, and fled the house screaming that someone was after her. But neither man had followed, not far anyway. They said she just ran. Authorities initially shrugged it off. They told Shannon's family she was probably on drugs, or that she might have just run off. After all, she was an escort. People like that go missing all the time, they said. But her mother, Mari Gilbert, didn't believe it. Not for 1 second. Mari didn't care about labels. She didn't care what her daughter did for a living. What mattered was that her daughter had called 911 for help, and nobody came. So Mari launched her own investigation. She marched door to door. She pressured the police. She begged the media. And in doing so, she cracked the case wide open. Because in December 2010, 7 months after Shannon vanished, police finally started searching the remote stretch of highway where she'd last been seen. But what they found was not Shannon. Instead, they uncovered a skeleton, wrapped in burlap, buried near the brush. Then 3 more, all female, all young, all sex workers, all dumped in the same way, and just feet apart. The Suffolk County Police were stunned. The media descended. Is there a serial killer on Long Island? The headlines screamed. And as the weeks passed, more bodies were found. A toddler, a young Asian man, 2 more women, even partial remains, bones belonging to someone else whose torso had already been found years earlier on a different beach. But not Shannon. As the number of victims grew, so did the pressure. Police were scrambling. The FBI got involved. Armchair detectives online created sprawling theories and digital maps, connecting timelines, phone records, and geography. The Gilgo Beach case was born. But amid all of this, Mari never stopped asking the only question that mattered to her. Where is my daughter? And in December 2011, a full year after the first body was found, the searchers finally discovered her remains, face down, in the same marsh she'd disappeared into 19 months earlier. But this discovery only deepened the mystery, Because Shannon was found apart from all the other bodies. She wasn't wrapped in burlap. She wasn't bound. There were no clear signs of trauma. Some believed she had just gotten lost and drowned. A tragic accident. But Mary refused that conclusion. Her daughter had called 911. She'd run for her life. She knew something, saw something. Shannon wasn't part of the other victims, the police claimed. Shannon was the key to all of them, Mary insisted. And then Mary went even further. She sued the Suffolk County Police Department, demanding full access to the 911 call, demanding justice. But justice was about to become more personal than she ever could have imagined. Mary Gilbert had spent years doing what no mother should ever have to do, fighting for the truth about her daughter's death, while the world debated whether Shannon was a victim or just a footnote. But Mary knew better. She appeared on news channels. She marched outside the police department. She pressured lawmakers. She sat across from detectives who had once dismissed her daughter as just another escort, and stared them down with fire in her eyes. In 2016, Mary's fight reached its peak. She had filed a lawsuit demanding the release of the full 23-minute 911 call that Shannon made the night she disappeared. Authorities refused. It would compromise the investigation, they said. What investigation? Mary asked. You've already decided she wasn't murdered. In truth, Shannon's call was terrifying. She had whispered, begged, and repeated, "They're trying to kill me." But the full content was never made public, not even to her mother. Still, Mary pushed on. Even as public interest in the Gilgo Beach case began to wane, Mary made sure the pressure never stopped. She believed the answers were out there, in the marsh, in the phone records, in the tangled web of men and money that led her daughter to Oak Beach that night. But then, just when her fight was gaining momentum, Mary Gilbert was found dead, murdered, stabbed more than 200 times in her own apartment by her own daughter. It was July 2016. Sarah Gilbert, one of Mary's other children, had been struggling with schizophrenia, voices, hallucinations, deep paranoia. That day, something inside her snapped, and just like that, the woman who had fought harder than anyone for the truth about Shannan's death was silenced. It was a national shock. The headlines that once read "Missing Escort Found in Marsh" now read "Mother of Gilgo Beach Victim Stabbed to Death by Daughter." It felt like the final heartbreak in a story filled with too many. But it wasn't the end, because Mary had planted seeds. Her fire had spread. Other mothers joined the fight. Families of the other victims, the Gilgo Four, began speaking out. True crime communities lit up. Podcasters, documentarians, citizen sleuths, all picked up where Mary had left off. The Netflix documentary Lost Girls, based on Mary and Shannon's story, reignited interest in the case. And then in 2022, a new task force quietly began re-examining evidence. DNA, cell phone pings, witness statements long buried in police records. By July 2023, 13 years after Shannon's disappearance, the first arrest was made in the Gilgo Beach murders. Rex Heuermann, a hulking Long Island architect, quiet, unassuming, a father, a man who for years had lived just miles from where the bodies were found. He was charged with the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, 3 of the Gilgo Four. Soon after, he was also indicted for Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Evidence included burner phones, Google searches, hair DNA, and chillingly, his wife and children had been out of town during each murder. But still, one question lingered. What about Shannon? Even with Rex Heuermann behind bars, police have maintained that Shannon's death was separate, that she wasn't murdered, just lost. But for those who followed this case, that doesn't sit right. Her frantic 911 call, the eerie similarities, the way she ran, barefoot, terrified through the neighborhood, the driver, the client, the silence, and for many, especially those who knew Mary Gilbert, the truth is this: Shannan Gilbert wasn't just the girl who vanished. She was the spark that blew the case wide open. She was the first scream in the dark, and she should never, ever be forgotten. Even with a suspect now behind bars, and national headlines swarming the case again, the truth remained just out of reach. Because every time investigators took a step forward, more questions seemed to rise from the marshy ground where so many secrets had been buried. What about the other bodies? There were not just 4. Police eventually uncovered 11 sets of remains along Ocean Parkway, some dismembered, some incomplete. One of them was a toddler, Another, an Asian male. Some of them dated back even earlier than Shannon's disappearance. It was a graveyard in plain sight. Authorities suggested multiple killers might be involved, that perhaps some victims were tied to Rex Heuermann and others to someone else entirely, or worse, that the stretch of beach had become a known dumping ground for predators who believed no one would ever look there. It made Shannon's story all the more disturbing, because if her death was not connected, it meant she had died completely separately, in the same location, in the same time frame, under the same eerie circumstances. Could that really be a coincidence? And what about Dr. Peter Hackett, the man who called Shannon's mother just days after she vanished? He lived in Oak Beach, not far from where her belongings were found. He told Mari he had taken Shannon in and given her medication to calm her down, but later denied ever speaking to her. Phone records proved he had called Mari. Why? Hackett was never charged, but suspicion lingered. Some say he was just a strange man in a strange place. Others believe he knows far more than he's ever admitted. Over the years, timelines were reassembled, maps redrawn. Online sleuths even went so far as to recreate Shannon's final steps using satellite images and local testimony. They found inconsistencies in who said what and when. Neighbors claimed Shannon pounded on their doors begging for help, but police didn't take it seriously. One said she saw a man watching her. Another said they didn't open the door because of the hour. Had someone followed her? Had someone caught up to her? Even the autopsy wasn't clear. One medical expert ruled her death inconclusive, but another, hired by Mary Gilbert, concluded that Shannon may have died from manual strangulation. And yet to this day, her case is still not officially classified as a homicide. But for those who followed her story, for those who remember the way her mother fought, the way her voice trembled on that 911 call, the eerie path her phone took through Oak Beach that night, there's little doubt Shannan Gilbert was the first to vanish, the first to scream, the one who brought the rest of the buried truth to light. And while the Gilgo Beach murders may now be one of the most famous serial killer investigations of the decade, it all started with one girl, barefoot, breathless, running for her life. A girl no one expected to matter, until she did. In the years since Shannan Gilbert's remains were found, her name has never truly left the headlines or the hearts of those still haunted by her story. Her mother, Mari Gilbert, refused to let Shannon be forgotten. She challenged the system, pushed police, hired independent pathologists. She held vigils, sat for interviews. She screamed louder than anyone for the world to pay attention. But tragically, Mari's life also ended in violence. In 2016, Mari was stabbed to death by her other daughter, Sarah, who was later diagnosed with schizophrenia. The mother who fought endlessly for justice, silenced in her own home. Another cruel twist in a story already heavy with sorrow. Still, Mari's legacy lives on. It lives in documentaries, like Lost Girls on Netflix. It lives in podcasts, in books, in the countless forums where amateur sleuths continue to dissect every chilling detail. Most of all, it lives in the progress that followed. A renewed investigation, DNA identifications, the arrest of Rex Heuermann, who now faces multiple murder charges tied to the Gilgo 4. And yet, Shannon's death is still not considered murder. It's that unresolved truth that keeps her case burning in the minds of millions. Because what if she hadn't disappeared? What if the dispatcher had taken her call more seriously? What if the first officers had searched the marsh that night? Would the bodies have ever been found? Would a suspected serial killer still be walking free? Would we even know about the Gilgo Beach murders? In the end, Shannan Gilbert, a 23-year-old escort from New Jersey, may not have been the first victim, but she was the first to lead us to the rest. Not by accident, by fighting until her very last breath. She didn't vanish quietly, she screamed, and because of that scream, the silence broke. Your voice matters, just like Shannon's did. Like this video if you believe every victim deserves justice. Subscribe for more stories that demand to be told. Comment below, do you believe Shannon was murdered? Let's talk about it.